Hi, it's Hannah Brett. This is Connect Call. We're going to go with a solo this week for a couple of reasons. One, I just feel like it. Two, I definitely want to elaborate a little bit more on last week's episode, which we had with Jonathan Lowe, J Lo, as I called him when I worked with him. And we are definitely having him back on the show. He was and still is a great resource. I loved everything he was saying. And for those of you who missed it, please tune in. You can go to my YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. I still feel very weird when I say that, by the way. And you can upload or download or what is the lingo? The jargon. Subscribe to that episode. And please tune in because he's got a way with his words and he is very, very knowledgeable when speaking about, the topic at hand, which was psychedelics and how they were helping a lot of people and still help people and are helping people like me with one's depression and even sometimes addiction. Again, I think a big reason why I wanted to do this show was not only to have that conversation, right, about mental health and the stigma around it, but really have an authentic conversation and really have episodes that are going to be appealing to all. Okay. I think in the work I do, there are, a lot of lanes people like to stay in about when it comes to sobriety and when it comes to mental health and types of treatment. And what I wanted to use this platform to do was really expose my viewers and my listeners to what is really out there. And that I truly believe one's treatment is like a snowflake. And who are we to judge? And who are we to say, what is right or what is wrong. And also, I just feel like there's so much misinformation out there, when we start talking about, and we will have episodes on psilocybin. We've had an episode on ketamine. We will have those episodes about plant-based medicine, about different styles of and types of treatment when it comes to PTSD and mental health. And I wanted to do it, because I think I've tried everything and talk about it, but also because I feel like I know what it's like to have no hope. And I know what it is like when you're in the depths of your depression and you think there's no way out. I've tried everything. And I'm here to tell you that you haven't. And I'm also here to tell all the haters out there, you are so misinformed. I'm not trying to be out here to show you I'm right and you're wrong, because that's not it. But I would love to educate with light. And I think even a lot of my colleagues and those in the industry and those of us who have gotten sober are misinformed and don't really understand a lot of these treatments and how effective they can be. I will stress, like any other thing out there, you can abuse anything. I often say, I'm all over the place right now, but I do often say that, Michael Jackson loved his milk and his propofol, but we still use it for surgeries, right? And if these psychedelics and certain medications and treatments are done as prescribed, as studied, as clinically proven, and under the correct supervision of, then they can be so effective and save so many lives. And I know this again, because I've tried everything. And so I kind of wanted to take this episode. And I know I've talked a little bit about myself, and I didn't want to be that person on the mic who was like, let me tell you my story. Let me continue to tell you my story. I'm just going to talk about me. Every episode, I'm going to talk about me, my story, me, myself, and I, and me. I didn't want to come off like that, but I also wanted to be authentic. And I wanted people to know out there that if I'm going to say, let's end the stigma and let's talk about mental health, then let's talk about my mental health, right? And I definitely wanted to take this episode to expand a little bit of what I was talking about last week with Jonathan and the depths of where my depression took me. I will say this, from a very, 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 very young age, as far as back I can remember, really, my drug of choice was acting and performing and being somebody I wasn't. I wanted to be anything but me, in every shape, form, So yeah, I did get into theater, because that was the best way to escape me and escape my depression. I think I had very low grade depression my whole life. I know this because I don't know. There have been so many comedians over time, especially Robin Williams and people like that, when they talk about, that quote, "Stay there. I'm gonna say it wrong." And I want to honor him and say it right. Hold on. Listen to the music while I'm looking. Okay. Oh, this is it. I found it. And there are many, many, many quotes with him that I hold dear to my heart. But this one was a zinger right to me. Robin Williams once said, "I think the saddest people always try their hardest to make people happy because they know what it's like to really feel absolutely worthless, and they don't want anyone else to feel like that." And what else did he write? Another beautiful reflection he shared on the value of bringing joy to others is, "I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I've made a few people happier than they would have been without me. And as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be." That is also true. But I think two things are very true for me, and where I really connected with that first quote was, as far back as I could remember, I never wanted to be who I was. And I also really just wanted to make people smile and laugh. And I still do to this day. I like to walk into a room and not be like the class clown, but to bring some joy into somebody's life, because I know how bad I had felt so much of my life. And if I can be that human pill of medicine, of joy, of that, bring that smile to someone else's face, there was no better fix for me, no bigger fix for me. I think that's why I think I got addicted to acting for so long, is the ability to make somebody laugh. I mean, I could quote all these comedians all day long. I think Gilda Radner even says it, like, about once you hear if you can make people laugh, like, I'm going to look up Gilda now. Hold on. This is important too. Stand by. Making people laugh. Quote, Gilda said, "All right, here's one that really, really got me too. I always felt that I could do anything if people were laughing." And that is so true. Whether it was work, whether it was my day to day and my relationships, I loved to make people smile, and still do. We talk about in marketing and being that my job my whole life, and business development, about relationship building, and I had a way of building relationships by, I think, hopefully making people smile, but not just making them smile, authentically being me and showing up that way to make people smile. To go back, to what I was saying about my depression, because I never wanted anybody to ever feel this horrible feeling that I had felt for many years, and still do, and comes in these waves sometimes. And this was also a big reason of why I wanted to do this podcast, and why I continue to do the work I do today, where I try to help people as little or as big as I can. I truly, truly, truly believe in the darkest and deepest and worst of times in my mental health, it has happened. My struggle has been real. The amount of treatments I have tried time and time again, different ones, literally have done everything but, like, bungee jump for my mental health. I have gone to these depths and dark places to hopefully help people not have to suffer that long, or take that long to struggle. Am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense, but what I'm trying to say is, with my friends, with this podcast, with me being, even for myself, as a gift to myself, by being honest and kind of releasing some of the shame, um, I think it's important. I know it's important that my journey took me here to this place, so that hopefully less people will struggle. Childhood, low grade depression, college, drank. We're also talking about questioning one's sexuality at this time, added to my depression. Didn't want to be in my body or like who I liked. And, but clinically, I could tell my whole life, like, my DNA was, I was a depressed kid, a really sad kid who just put on those, tears of a clown like Smokey Robinson. I know the worst of my depression showed up in 2016, 2017. These waves of such darkness, didn't want to get up in the morning, didn't want to go to bed, didn't want to eat, didn't want to bathe. And I'm now grateful that it was that bad, because I think if I had that functional depression that I also see some of my peers and my friends go through, where they just continue to show up, but they're depressed, I think you kind of tell yourself, I don't need medication. You tell yourself, I don't need help, or tomorrow's going to be better. And you kind of just settle with this funk of funkiness, right? But with me, it took me the fuck out. And I finally understood why I was using. I was like, oh, this is what I was doing. I was self-medicating for this hell I was basically having these episodes with. And when I was younger, they were few and far between. But again, 2016, 2017 is when it went off to the races like I'd never seen. And since then, I've been treating what I consider treatment-resistant depression. It's taken me many years to own my depression. It's taken me many years to say that I struggle with depression and not just anxiety. I think anxiety is a safe word in mental health. I see it a lot with men when we start talking about, symptoms of and their mental health. I think the safe word is anxiety or a little anxious. When I think there's a lot of depression that goes on and we don't talk about it because people are like, why are you depressed? I mean, I still remember, even my family, like when I told my dad I was depressed and I'd been struggling it my whole life, and other members of my family, it was obvious that they'd been struggling as well. He said, well, he'd be like, there's nothing to be depressed about. You have a lovely house, you have a lovely dog, you're married to a wonderful woman, you have a wonderful job. Best imitation I can do of him. And there was nothing to be sad about, And, you know, Jim Carrey said it. There's such a difference between sadness and depression. Sadness is matter of fact that you're sad about something happening. There's something in time, someone has passed away and you are sad. You have lost a love and that will make you sad. Depression is your body basically telling you need deep rest. It is a smell. It is a feeling through your body. It is waking up in the morning and not wanting to make yourself a good breakfast. Like I said on the last episode, it is getting up thinking, I don't want to go work out today, or looking in the mirror and thinking how ugly you look, But I think the most shame I have felt as someone who struggles with depression is being in my industry of the treatment industry, of getting those help, with one's mental health and substance use treatment and anything. You kind of take a back seat to those you're helping, right? And then, God forbid, which is so funny if you think about it, because the majority of us, by the way, who are in this industry of being helpers, we didn't come here just because, we liked rehab and we just wanted to put you in it, Majority of us are here because of our own journeys with mental health and addiction, and or a family member of ours that we couldn't save, control, or work with. And this is our way of kind of healing ourselves and helping others, But we all have a story. And so I think what's funny, not funny, but I can now, after all these years, say it's still so taboo in a way in our industry, and hush hush. And, like we used to whisper the word cancer. We like whisper still in this industry, hey, I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks. Yeah, I'm just going to be going into that program. Yeah. I'll tell you, I'll let you know how things are going. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's very taboo still, I feel. When I got sober and when I first started tackling my mental health, two things to be true, or one thing to be true, which is, I will never graduate from this. I will never, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day saying that it's been like 23, 24 years since I've had a drink and drugs, because I was a raging alcoholic. I mean, all the rest of it as well. But, and when I think about that, everyone's like, oh, that's such an accomplishment and whatever. But that's the symptom, the real work, the thing that I always have to keep tabs on is my mental health, is treating myself and continuously doing the work so I am bettering myself and also helping those symptoms that come out to play in my relapses of depression. My depression's no joke. It will take me out. It could have taken me out. I'm not saying it will take me out, but it is one of those that, you know, um, and this for everybody. I think what the conversation needs to be had that a lot of people don't talk about is you hear people say, oh, I found Zoloft and I felt so much better. Oh, I found Prozac and blah, 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 blah. I felt so much better, or I found this treatment and I was all good. Like, I don't think we talk about it enough that it's not like you've graduated. Even when you found that magic medicine, even if you found the magic medicine that goes with the magic therapy, that goes with the magic workout, that goes with the, magic relationship now with the magic job, and like, you're just really feeling yourself, you still need to do the work on yourself. You still haven't graduated, you know? Um, in 2016, 2017, I did ask for the help. I went to treatment centers. I did even aftercare and IOP. And we're going to talk about this more in other episodes, but if there was a treatment I could have done, I did it. I had tried at that point at least 6 antidepressants in my life. I had tried multiple different therapies. I had been to already treatment a few times, and my choices at the time to hopefully turn the switch on in my head was TMS, which we will talk about in an episode, ECT, electric shock therapy, or the ketamine infusions. And at the time, like I said, I did electroshock therapy, which didn't do anything for me. It has worked for other people. I will say this, it did not work for me. I still encourage and I welcome, and I say this to anybody who is dealing with any sort of mental health struggles, like, just continue to have hope and continue to be an open and willing participant in your life to want to get better. And whatever that takes to do that safely, we are going to do, you know? But I think a really big turning point for me, and something I do not speak about a lot, and I still have a lot of shame about, is after one of my treatments in 2017, and following the orders of that treatment center to then go to an outpatient here in Atlanta, and kind of, with all due respect, I wasn't really getting much from art therapy and sand therapy and was kind of done with it, but I wanted to be that kind of straight A student for myself. Unfortunately, a part of that, and we'll be talking this also in other episodes, is because it was more of an insurance-based provider, I found myself in front of multiple doctors, changing my meds at a very rapid pace. And what ended up happening is I crashed really badly. What I remember of this day was, it was, I think, in November. I was supposed to go to one of my aftercare groups at this facility, and I I was done. I didn't want to take myself out, but when Hannah's done, she sleeps. And so what I decided to do, and I thought it was a really smart idea, was instead of going to the treatment center in Atlanta, there was a hotel next to the treatment center. Why would I do that? But I did. I checked into that hotel instead of during the time I was supposed to be in group. I said, I'm going to nap next to the treatment center. I don't know why I was thinking like this. Oh, and I also thought it was a really good idea to call my wife and let her know this is what I was doing, which scared the shit out of her, which rightfully so, And because of that, an emergency family meeting happened at that treatment center with my wife and my sister-in-law and myself, and some doctor, I think, who I'd met twice the whole time I had been there. And I just remember at the time being so hysterical and crying my eyes out, pleading for sanity, pleading for my life, pleading for joy, pleading for an answer, pleading for a safe time out. And I wasn't really thinking of what I was saying, I think, because I knew in my heart, and I'll say it, when my depression is bad, I have suicidal ideation. What that means to me is I envision a world without me in it. I hear the music you'll be playing at my funeral. I see the slideshow you'll even be playing because I'm that vain. But I don't have those steps and measures in place to take myself out. I never will get that far. It will never even go there. I just have this ideation of what life will be without Hannah Brett. And in just saying that, I know it would devastate and destroy so many people that I love, you know? And but why I'm saying this is I know I never said I was going to hurt anybody or hurt myself, but I still got up to go to the bathroom. And with that, I was told, and now it's involuntarily. You'll be involuntarily hospitalized. I guess part of that conversation that I don't really remember because I kind of blacked it out is I agreed for a little hospital stay, little check out, little time out on, they really made it sound cushy. That I do remember. Like, don't you more and relax? Like it was like a spa. Don't you just want a little time out and just like focus on you? And I do remember saying something of the volunteering myself to say yes. And when I got up and then I heard the doctor say, well, now it's involuntary or something. There was like a switch. I remember I woke up and I looked at him and I said, Hoda, I've worked in this business for many years. I did not say I was going to hurt myself or anybody else. If I walk out of this room right now, have you 1013'd me? Meaning that I was going to be, I was being put on a psych hold, which meant it would be against the law if I had left the building and did not go with them to a hospital to be put into the psych hold. The police would be after me. It gets that extreme real quick. And I flipped out at first. I do remember that. I do remember they had to ask my wife and my sister-in-law to leave. I was medicated. I do remember telling them something along the lines like, you don't know who you're fucking with. I'm Hannah Brett. Like, this is my job. I do marketing in treatment. I will destroy your career. Please, I'm begging you. I am not hurting myself or anybody else. I don't want to do this. And it was just like the movies, y'all. And it took me, and it's still taking me, even talking about it right now, a lot to talk about it and to get into some detail about it because it was probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. And I've done rehab. I think I could definitely do prison, but a psych hold is a whole new bag of chips. I just think the way we keep people safe it's not productive. I know that it's a little barbaric and it's very traumatic, especially when we're talking about adolescents and kids. I will say this, a psych hold is there for a reason. And if there is somebody who is in risk of hurting themselves or someone else, then that step needs to be taken. But I have seen time and time again where either somebody will say the wrong thing at the wrong time, or a kid will say, I'm just going to kill myself if you put me into treatment and be put into this, what they call a 72-hour psych hold. I was taken to a facility here in Atlanta. Again, all I knew was 72 hours. I woke up after being in an admissions cell for 6 hours, very cold, being just kind of like held there. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It felt like I was being arrested. It felt like I was being punished for being sad or depressed. And there was a very long waiting period to even get me into my room. And once I got into my room, I was placed on a bed, which was like a box, wood, no mattress, with a blanket. I think the idea is we don't want to keep you too comfortable on these beds because you'll sleep all day. So we got to keep you up, and we'll keep you up and get your head up. And that morning I woke up, my roommate, God bless her, asked if I could hold her in the shower. She might stroke out. She had a tendency to do that sometimes or have a seizure of some sort. I dissociated like I'd never dissociated in my life. I also cried like I'd never cried in my life. I think when you were told or kept from going outside or you were physically locked in, it does something primal to you. To this day, I don't like doors being locked behind me. I don't like being anywhere I can't get out of because those 72 hours for me ended up being 8 days. And for some, I've even heard of longer. And what happened during that time is I guess it kept me safe. It didn't keep me sane. No medications were changed. So I'll say this, it was the lowest of the low I'd been. That is a definite point in my life where I looked in the mirror. I didn't recognize myself because my eyes were, I cried so hard, they were swollen shut. And I remember saying out loud in the mirror in the bathroom, Hannah Brett, you are going to get through this and you are going to get through this so that you can help some other kid or some other woman out there and they don't have to go through this. And lo and behold, I became kind of the Norma Ray on the unit, you know? For the first 4 or 5 days, I kicked and screamed. I wouldn't go to group. I wouldn't participate. I remember my mother flew in from the UK. I didn't want to disrupt her because of it's a long story, but my sister has Di-George syndrome. And because of her Di-George syndrome, she has been in and out of psych units. So I didn't want, her baby to also be in a psych unit. She flew in and walked in, God bless her, with a box of donuts thinking she could get me out that way and still couldn't. And I remember the only reason they allowed me to leave was that I had to commit to a residential stay somewhere. If not with them, which they were really pushing, by the way, I had to find something else. And that was the only way I was allowed out. And for the first 2 years after that stint, I couldn't go down that street. I couldn't drive down that street. And then when I started to drive down that street, I'd scream out the window like every curse you could think of, like a maniac, flip the bird. I was so angry. Because it was so girl interrupted. It was so Hannah interrupted. It was, again, I do remember when I left that psych hold that day, I rounded up the nurses, the crew who were on the unit, who were at the front desk. And I remember there was only like 3 or 4 of them. And I said to the first woman, Laura was her name. I said, Laura, I just want to say something. Thank you. Thank you for giving me hugs every day. Thank you for telling me when I couldn't breathe that it was going to be okay. Thank you for also bringing me food to my bed and to this unit because I had so much shame in going to the dining room because the hospital I was at was also one of my accounts and I knew staff and I couldn't be seen. Thank you for bringing me food and make sure I was being fed. To the other 3 of you, find a new profession. I go, we are women here because we have been put here because we are not okay and we are sad and we are depressed and we are anxious. But we are not criminals. We have done nothing wrong to you or yours. And the way you treated us was pretty horrific. There was no compassion. There was no love. There was no treating us with any sort of humanity, And I get it. It's a psych hold. But it should be a psych hug, that we can change the terminology and change the format, I've seen far too many children experience those experiences in those settings and they equate it with treatment and therapy and will never want to even go into a residential setting because they think they're going to be hospitalized. I'm a big advocate today of less of the white walls and exit signs, but definitely I'm proud to sit here and say that I survived a psych hold and it's made me funnier. It's also made me have so much more compassion. I remember when I left and went through that period, walking through different antidepressants and different treatments. And that stays in particular made me really understand the work I was doing at a whole new level. I think a lot of my colleagues are really quick to put a head in a bed for their facility, for even their own psych hospitals, without really stepping in the shoes of that child and of that adult and of that person, And listen, I don't, I don't think you need to, try your own products out, but I often feel that I would really love to see all the CEOs of psych hospitals just spend the night in their units and tell me how that goes for you. How loving and hopeful and, warm and humane you felt and how it felt for you or whatever. And I'm just here to sit here in front of you to tell you that I am so under construction. I will do episodes on all different types of therapies, all different types of modalities, all different medications and treatments that help me and have helped others that I think get, more attention than they should, And I am not all right and all knowing by any means, but I would walk the motherfucking walk on this one, you guys. Like, I know what I am talking about when it comes to depression, when it comes to self-medicating for my depression, when it comes to treatments of my depression. I dare anybody to step to me to say anything about something that I have tried and you have not. And I'm also here to say that, and it's going to help me by saying it more probably, is that there's always hope. There's always hope. Even on my worst of days, I would always, to this day, write 5 things that I'm grateful for. I now have a coach that I work with, and in the mornings, we say good morning, and I say 3 things I'm grateful for. But at night, I try to also then write 5 things I am grateful for. Even on the day my mother died, I wrote 5 things I was grateful for. And it makes me to remember that whatever I am feeling, whatever I am going through, and as dark as my depression was and has been, that this shall pass, and it does pass. Sometimes it hangs out for a little longer than I want. Sometimes it just kind of comes by for the day and then just checks out and I'm back to myself. And I can tell whether my depression's around or not because if I'm funny and I want to hang out with people and all that. It's really just how I take care of myself. That's the number one thing for me. And if I want to listen to music, it's really weird. And connect with people. And the opposite also for depression is connection. And with that, I think that is where my company came from. This is where the show originated from. I really wanted to find a way to connect with people, not just for myself, but for you guys, because I knew the opposite of that was depression, and all life is, and the joy that you have and what feeds our soul truly is connection and to connect with people, as hard as it can be at times. So with that, I'm going to sign out and say I'm really happy I got to just talk about myself for about 37 minutes. No, but if there's anything I might have said tonight that somebody can hold on to, just know I'm walking the walk with you. And I welcome questions. I welcome people writing in for topics. I welcome hearing your story and how we can help you and find the resources for you. Bring it. I love it. I want to hear about it. There's nothing that you can say or do that I won't understand. I want to use this platform to help somebody else. So with that, good night. And this is Connect Call with Hannah Brett, signing out. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Connect Call. As we conclude, remember that insights shared are intended for informational and educational purposes only and should not substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We strongly recommend consulting a qualified medical health professional or healthcare provider for personalized advice tailored to your unique needs. Your mental health journey is important, and having the right support is essential. If you're experiencing a mental health crisis or require immediate assistance, please reach out to a mental health provider or emergency services in your area. We're grateful to have you as part of our community, and your well-being remains our priority. So follow us on social media to stay connected, and be sure to catch one of our episodes on our YouTube channel. We're here to support you every step of the way.